Hello, my name is Jason Leahy, Executive Director of the Illinois Principals Association. Thank you for joining me for this IPA talk. And for me today in particular, and I think for you too, this is a special treat because with me I've got a longtime good friend and also Executive Director of the National Association of Elementary School Principals, Dr. Earl Franks, here to talk with me about a few things going on with their association. Also give a little bit of his perspective on what's going on, particularly out east with the change in the administration that we've had. We've got a new Secretary of Education likely to come at some point in time, and also some exciting news with regards to the conference that NAESP is planning to have here in Chicago, hopefully this summer. Obviously, we'll have to continue to contend with things as they are, but we'll talk a little bit about that as well. So, Dr. Franks, thanks for being with me. I sure appreciate it.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. I'm look forward to the conversation.
Well, you bet. So, Earl, I know some in this state know you, I'm sure, quite well. Others may not. So for those that maybe don't, thought it'd be nice to let you just introduce yourself, just share some of your vast experience. And I think you and I have talked about this before, but a little kindred in the fact that I know you were a former band teacher, which my dad was a band teacher years and years ago before he got into administration. So I know that's part of your background. And my guess is your time as a band instructor was very informative to help you become a school leader at some point in time down the road too.
Absolutely. Yeah, Jason, I started out as a band director, instrumental music teacher for 13 years.
Yeah.
And after that, I became the school principal. And ironically enough, I was a band director for 12 years before I became the school principal at the same school. Wow. So that's probably another conversation that we can talk about later.
Right.
But yeah, I was fortunate enough to serve as principal. It was a pre-K-12 school in Alabama. I served in that role for 9 years. And then I was fortunate enough to become the executive director of the state school administrator organization, the Council for Leaders in Alabama Schools. They represented school and school system administrators, 10 affiliates. So every type of school leader organization is under the umbrella of CLAS, and that's based in Montgomery, Alabama. Served in that role for 9 years. And 4 years ago, was fortunate to come to NAESP as only the 7th executive director in now the 100th year history of NAESP. So it's been a great career that I've had as I think about every day. Certainly my beginnings as a music teacher allowed me, I think, to really better myself as a school administrator, having been an instrumental music teacher where you're working with various sections, trying to pull different groups together for one common purpose. And certainly as a band director, it was to make beautiful music. Yeah. Whereas it is, as a principal, certainly bringing people together to provide high quality education opportunities for students. And then same thing as what we do as an executive director of school organization for administrators, pulling people together for a common goal.
Yeah. Well, and I've always thought, in terms of my experience now, Earl, over time, I always felt like from what I've learned about school leadership over the years and what I would watch band instructors do and those that were directors of marching bands and all of that, and thinking about the work with the kids, the number of kids, just getting them to step in time, working with the numbers of parents, all of that was great training ground for school leadership. So I feel like those that are band directors now and thinking a little bit about school leadership, they really ought to consider it because they're in good training right now.
Certainly, if you think about just from a musical perspective, balance and blend, how you balance the different sections, trying to make sure the melody is most important. So maybe the percussion's too loud, maybe the brass, the trombones are too loud, or something needs to be elevated. Well, that's what we do as school principals. You have to balance between your faculty, staff, your parents, your school community, school leaders, your district office. So it's a lot about balancing the different sections that make up a school organization. So I think certainly it was great training ground for me to help me become a better school principal.
And I'll get off of this after this question. Or what was your major instrument? I'm just curious.
Trumpet.
Is that right? Well, that was my dad's major instrument too. There you go. That's something
Another
else.
commonality there.
That's right. Yep. Good band directors, good trumpet players, good administrators all the way around. So Earl, this is the 100th year for NAESP. And while I want to talk about, the conference here in Chicago, maybe a little bit later, but I think what I remember hearing is hearing about the planning for the conference. One of the reasons about bringing that to Chicago was the thought that there's some connection between NAESP and Illinois, if I remember right, that maybe some of the first conversations about NAESP started in Illinois, which I thought was pretty interesting, for our school leaders here to know. But as you guys are looking at this 100th year as the association, what are some things that you kind of got planned?
Well, I think first and foremost, it's important to have high quality content. And so much of the content that we'll have for the Chicago conference was really planned last year for a Louisville conference. And in fact, we invited our keynote presenters who were scheduled to present last summer. We wanted to give them an opportunity to come back. And they all graciously agreed to work it into their schedule. So we're excited to have our 3 keynoters. And then most of the breakout sessions, not all, but most, we gave the opportunity, those that were presenting in Louisville, the opportunity to come and present in Chicago. So it starts with great content, great keynote, beneficial breakout sessions. But we know networking is so critically important. So we certainly are going to respect our history. There's going to be a part of that. We'll have our 100th commemorative art project that is completed. We're excited in the coming weeks, actually, to unveil that. But we'll have it in person in Chicago at the conference. We'll also have some really time for people to get together, just to connect about from a historical perspective, past board members, those type things, networking opportunities. But because our National Distinguished Principal Program was canceled this past year, we're actually paying for all those NDP, the class of 2020, to come to Chicago to the conference. We're going to recognize all of them, including our national outstanding assistant principals, who we typically recognize on stage at the annual conference. We're going to bring them to Chicago, and we're going to have a special awards session that will really congratulate them, give them all their plaque, their bells. And as part of that, too, during the conference, we're going to have their breakout session just for NDPs. So it's just a time to celebrate, network, to get together in one of the greatest cities, conference cities in the United States, and that's Chicago. We're going to be at the Hyatt right on the river. And so we don't have to worry about transportation going to another venue. Everything will be housed under the one roof at the Hyatt.
Yeah, that's a great location. Spend some time there. And of course, you and I've had a dinner or two in Chicago over the years, which has been great. There's plenty of good places to eat, and obviously be remiss to note that we are recognizing, what we're dealing with the pandemic, and we'll continue to assess that. But I think as of this moment in time, we're just going to act like we're going to be there and be hopeful for that here in the next few months. And to Earl, I believe you guys are putting a pretty nice rate forward for Illinois leaders to be in attendance, which I'm grateful for that.
Absolutely. We're giving discounts to all Illinois principals, regardless if they're NAESP members or not. So we hope you'll take advantage of that. Certainly, it will be like a homecoming for all the Illinois Principals Association members.
Yep.
Just to connect. You don't have to drive that far. And again, all the conference strands are aligned to the PEASL standards. The graduate and CEU credits will be available through Seattle Pacific University. And again, all the content is just not focused on one particular level. So we'll have sessions for assistant, early career, veteran principals, and then the exhibits, which we know is a very important part of the conference. But before I forget, it's July the 8th through the 10th in Chicago. And again, great city, great venue. And we hope that all the Illinois principals will come and be with us as we celebrate, again, our 100th anniversary, but celebrate each other. And I know we've talked about this a lot, but we certainly are monitoring the pandemic. And, we hope that everyone will be vaccinated by the summer and we can all come safely. But regardless, just know that all attendees, first and foremost, are our number one priority, and we'll certainly won't do anything that will cause any kind of unsafe problems for the attendees. And so just continue to monitor that. We'll make sure that we keep in touch with everyone as we lead up to that July 8th through the 10th dates.
You bet. Well, I appreciate that sentiment, Earl. Obviously, that's something we're all contending with currently. And pivoting here just a little bit, I know you have been in many conversations with school leaders, policymakers, all of that's here, related to what's happening with the pandemic. And I'm just, curious about, your own perspective as a former school leader, as a former state exec, and now, exec for NAESP. What are some things that you're learning through this? What are you seeing from school leaders throughout the country? What are some things you see for us in the days ahead?
Well, first, I have to commend all school leaders, as well as teachers, and let's just say educators. I think they've done tremendous work during this pandemic. It hasn't been easy, certainly for our educators. It hadn't been easy for students. It hadn't been easy for parents. But Jason, I think it depends on where you are in the country. We've seen some areas where the schools have pretty much been in person throughout. We've seen some that are still virtual, and then we've seen this hybrid model. So I think it depends on where you are, your local communities. But what we've advocated for from the very beginning of the pandemic, the school leaders, teachers, they want students in school, but they want to do so and have the environment to be as safe as possible. So we've been, again, advocating that school leaders listen to the health experts and not really be forced into doing things because of political reasons. And, it's what I've been saying to my colleagues here in the DC area. In some particular cases, it's damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Right.
There are many parents that want children back in school. Some don't think it's safe. We've got teachers who feel very uncomfortable coming back unless they're vaccinated. So I think you have to look at your particular community, listen to your health experts, work with your school district administrators, and ultimately do what's best for students, but keeping in mind faculty, staff, and the safety of all concerned. I think it depends on the facilities that they're working in. We know many schools are very old. The HVAC units are not what they should be. So there are a lot of variables in the decision. But again, I really advocate for listening to those health experts who really know what's best and working with your local school community.
I think the school that I went to was post World War I. I think it was the original structure built in the 1920s, not 2020, of course. And the idea to get the air moving in that building was to open up those big single pane glass windows usually. So I sure understand that. And hopefully we might even see a few bucks come through from the feds over the years in times ahead to help remedy some of that, because it's definitely needed. So thinking about federal engagement here, Earl, obviously we're going to have a new Secretary of Education under the Biden administration. I know we're looking at someone that's now our acting secretary. Hopefully we'll receive confirmation here fully, but we got somebody that is a former school leader, former NAESP member. So just kind of curious about your perspective here with what we might see in the days and years ahead.
Well, we've been really pleased, even before President Biden was inaugurated. We were in contact with his administration. His team was reached out to all of the organizations in the Learning First Alliance, which are secondary principals, PTA, school boards, superintendents. So we've been in close contact with the administration. And I've been very plain in my request from them. One is just simply include us. We want to be a partner in this. If we all work together, then the students are going to benefit from our work. But we want to be collaborative. We want to be seek the opinion of those who are closest to the work, the school teachers and the school administrators. So again, we've been very pleased with the administration since they've taken over. Since the inauguration, they've continued to reach out with us. We've sent a letter to Congress asking for a quick approval of the nominee of Secretary of Education. And I thought he did a very good job in the committee. And I'm told, I think you said you're going to release this on Friday, Thursday of this week. We're taping this Monday, but Thursday.
Monday, February 8th, just to put a timestamp on it for everyone. You bet.
So the committee is going to vote on his nomination on Thursday, but we really don't know when it will come up for a vote in Congress. But my guess is he won't have any trouble being approved. And we're looking forward to working with him. Again, he's been a teacher, he's been a principal, he's been a local school superintendent, he's been a state school superintendent. So to me, it's a breath of fresh air, someone who has been there, someone who has walked the walk, understands what school teachers, school principals are going through. And I just believe he's about all students. And those of us in public education, we work hard every day to try to do what's best, not for some kids, but for all kids.
So asking you to look into that crystal ball of yours, Earl, I know it's vast and always right on target, right? So one of the things that we're dealing with here in Illinois, like many states are, is assessments, accountability. When you think about Acting Secretary Cardona being finally approved here later this week, the week of February 8th, when we're recording this, we are going to join with our counterparts, our two teachers unions, our superintendents association. Our state superintendent just put forward a memo to educators across the state that said that the State Board of Education here in Illinois will be looking to get some relief where assessments are concerned. Any idea what the conversation is looking like right now with federal policymakers? Because obviously, and this might even be something that the president himself will engage in. But for us to get some help, we're going to need federal assist, obviously. With it, when you think about ESSA and the accountability requirements related to that. So not to back you into a corner on a decision here, if it doesn't go the way you say, I sure understand that, but just any perspective there.
Yeah, and if you watch the committee hearing on the nominee, he was asked this, and of course it depends on what political side of the aisle you're on. Yeah. There's going to be those that want some sort of assessment given, but I think ultimately he's going to take a step back, especially given the pandemic, and really seek advice from those who have been in the field. Just coming as a state superintendent, he certainly understands that, and so I think there's going to be some time given before we start going full bore on assessment. There's going to be some that said we need assessment. What about the learning loss? How much learning loss has there been? So I do think he'll take a step back. I don't think he's going to do anything out front quickly that says no, students need to be assessed. So I think he's going to give some relief to the states. And he's gonna look to partner with states and all the national organizations because, again, he wants to do what's best for students. I really believe that. And just assessing students all the time is not necessarily in the best interest of students. So, again, I wouldn't expect him to come out. I think there's going to be a delay before anything is, from an assessment perspective, is pushed from the Department of Education.
Yeah, well, appreciate those thoughts. I know that's something we'll be watching pretty closely as we deal with this duality of this is what we're hopeful for, but we're still planning on moving forward right now on that important topic. Well, let me just wrap up with this, Earl. And you gave us this really nice introduction of yourself, but you've got a fellow former Illinoisan now because she spends her time mostly with you, which I sure understand. But we'll be looking forward to seeing her this summer. And that is your wife, Carol, is from this great state, correct?
Absolutely. She graduated from Lockport Township High School in Lockport, and she went to the University of Illinois and was first chair of flute in the University of Illinois band. Graduated there with her degree in music, and so she's all about the U of I and the Illini, and so yeah, she loves Illinois and she loves Chicago and still has family there, and so she is looking very much forward to coming and being with us in Chicago.
Well, and speaking as someone who has personal experience with this, Earl, I know you married way up like I did. So good for us, for sure. Well, listen, it's a pleasure to have you with me. Thanks for your time. I know you've got plenty going on, and appreciate the work that you're doing there with NAESP and your team, and looking forward to seeing you this summer with the 100th anniversary conference that's going to be taking place. Make sure I got the dates right, July 8th through the 10th. And I'll look to see hopefully many of our Illinois principals and APs, other school leaders there as well. So Dr. Earl Franks, thanks for joining me.
Thank you, Dr. Leahy. And again, thank you very much for this opportunity to visit with you. And kudos to you, the Illinois Principals Association, because I follow you. You do great work for your school administrators. And to those that may be listening to this that are not members of your organization, I certainly hope they will take advantage of that, because they'll be glad they did. So again, looking forward to being with you all, and thanks for this opportunity to visit with you.
Well, sure, my pleasure. Again, my name is Jason Leahy, Executive Director of the Illinois Principals Association, joined today by Dr. Earl Franks, Executive Director of NAESP. As always, if there's anything that IPA can do for you, don't hesitate to reach out and give us a call, or check us out on the web at www.ilprincipals.org. Take care.